Chapter 11. The Wonderful Emerald City of Oz. Even with their eyes protected by the green spectacles, Dorothy and her friends were at first dazzled by the brilliancy of the wonderful city. The streets were lined with beautiful houses, all built in green marble and studded everywhere with sparkling emeralds. They walked over a pavement of the same green marble. Where the blocks were joined together were rows of emeralds, set closely and glittering in the brightness of the sun. The window panes were of green glass, and even the sky above the city had a green tint, and the rays of the sun were green. There were many people, men, women, and children, and all these were dressed in green clothes and had greenish skin. They looked at Dorothy and her strangely assorted company with wondering eyes, and the children all ran behind her. They all ran behind their mothers and hid when they saw the lion, but nobody spoke to them. Many shops stood in the street, and Dorothy saw that everything in them was green. Green candy and green popcorn were offered for sale, as well as the green shoes, green hats, and green clothes of all sorts. At one place, a man was selling green lemonade, and when the children bought it, Dorothy could see that they paid for it with green pennies. There seemed to be no horses nor animals of any kind. The men carried things around in little green carts, which they pushed before them, and everyone seemed happy and contented and prosperous. The guardian of the gates led them through the streets until they came to a big building exactly in the middle of the city, which was the Palace of Oz, the Great Wizard. There was a soldier before the door, dressed in green uniform and wearing a green beard. "Here are the strangers," said the guardian of the gates to him, "and they demanded to see Oz." "Step inside," answered the soldier, "and I will carry your message to him." So they passed through the palace gates, led into a big room with a green carpet and lovely green furniture set with emeralds. The soldier made them all wipe their feet upon the green mat before entering the room, and when they were seated, he said politely, "Please, make yourselves comfortable while I go to the door of the throne room and tell Oz you are here." They had to wait a long time before the soldier returned, and when at last he came back, Dorothy asked, "Have you seen Oz?" "Oh, no," returned the soldier. "I have never seen him. But I spoke to him, and he sat behind his screen, and I gave him your message. He said he will grant you an audience, if you desire, but each one of you must enter his presence alone. And he will admit but one each day, therefore you must remain in the palace for several days. I will have you shown to your rooms, where you must rest in comfort for your journey." "Thank you," replied the girl. "That is very kind of Oz." The soldier now blew upon his green whistle, and at once a young girl dressed in a pretty silk gown entered the room. She had lovely green hair and green eyes, and she bowed low before Dorothy as she said, "Follow me, and I will show you to your room." So Dorothy said goodbye to all her friends except Toto, and taking the dog in her arms, she followed the green girl through several passages and up 3 flights of stairs until they came to a room in front of the palace. It was the sweetest little room in the world, with soft, comfortable bed, which had sheets of green silk and a velvet counterpane. There was a tiny fountain in the middle of the room that shot a spray of green perfume into the air, to fall back into beautifully carved marble green basin, with a shelf and a row of green little books on it. When Dorothy had time to open the books, she found them all full of strange, queer green pictures that made her laugh. They were so funny. In a wardrobe were many green dresses made of silk and satin and velvet, and all of them fitted Dorothy exactly. "Make yourself at home," said the green girl, "and if you wish for anything, ring the bell. Oz will send for you tomorrow morning." She left Dorothy alone, and she went back to the others. These she also led to rooms, and each one of them found himself lodged in a very pleasant part of the palace. Of course, this politeness was wasted on the Scarecrow, for when he found himself alone in his room, he stood stupidly in one spot, just within the doorway, to wait until morning. It would not rest him to lie down, and he could not close his eyes, so he remained all night staring at a little spider in the corner of the room, just as if it were not one of the most wonderful rooms in the world. The Tin Woodman lay down on his bed from force of habit, for he remembered when he was made of flesh. But not being able to sleep, he passed the night by moving his joints up and down to make sure that they kept in good working order. The lion would have preferred a bed of dry leaves in the forest and did not like being shut up in a room, but he had too much sense to let this worry him, so he sprang upon the bed, rolled himself up like a cat, and purred himself to sleep. The next morning after breakfast, the Green Maiden came to fetch Dorothy, and she dressed her in one of the prettiest gowns and made her. The gown was made of brooch satin. Dorothy put on a green silk apron and tied a green ribbon around Toto's neck, and they started for the throne room of the Great Oz. First they came to the Great Hall, in which many ladies and gentlemen of the court, all dressed in rich costumes. These people had nothing to do but talk to each other, but they always came to wait outside the throne room every morning, although they were never permitted to see Oz. As Dorothy entered, they looked at her curiously, and one of them whispered, "Are you really going to look upon the face of Oz the Terrible?" "Of course," answered the girl, "if he will see me." "Oh, "He will see you," said the soldier, who had taken her message to the wizard, "although he does not like to have people see him. Indeed, at first he was angry, and he said I should send you back to where you came from. Then he asked me what you looked like, and when I mentioned your silver shoes, he was very much interested. At last I told him about the mark upon your forehead, and he decided he would admit you to his presence." Just then the bell rang, and the little green girl said to Dorothy, "That's the signal. You must go to the throne room alone."